Travis Wingoodsell. Yeah, interesting. From the 6th hour to the 9th hour of the Jewish time frame, my internet was being intercepted. I read from Matthew chapter 27, starting in verse 45. Now, from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli. It's actually Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Right before the 6th hour, I was given the death threat. Death threat. And internet darkness from the Jewish 6th hour, which is noon, sunrise, sunset, fiddler on the roof. So 6 to 9 in the morning is the first hour. Well, no, not first hour, it's the first shift. So the 6th hour is 12 o'clock noon. But everybody assumes that the 9th hour, which was 3 p.m., was when Jesus died. But as I've clearly pointed out, he never existed. He didn't save the Jews. And so he's not coming back a second time when he failed the first. But I've gone over and explained the second time. It's having to do with the signs in the heavens from the Book of Mormon. And so, what do you have in the Book of Mormon? It starts off with Jerusalem being attacked, and a puppet king is placed on the throne in place of the true king of Judah, which is the lineage of King David. So the throne of David was usurped, and a puppet king was placed on the throne, Zedekiah, by Babylon. And then they came back, and Babylon destroyed everything. Destroyed the temple, everything. But the Book of Mormon talks about one particular prophet named Lehi, Jawbone, as from the book in Judges on Samson. And he gets a dream. You need to flee. Jerusalem is going to be destroyed. They're going to kill you. He got a death threat. Told to go leave for the promised land. And then they get to the promised land at the top of the Red Sea, and a few other things happen. Got a dream, we need to flee. We're going to the promised land. They wander in the desert, they make it to the land Bountiful, at the other end of Saudi Arabia, where the monsoons strike on a regular basis to make it bountiful. And And then again, time to go. And they go to another promised land. And then here, Nephi, in this new promised land, is told he is to usurp the kingdom from his older brother. But his older brother gives him a death threat. So Nephi leaves and goes to another promised land. As Laman takes on the throne, but hunts down Nephi until generations later they're destroyed, beaten down, only the corpses of levels, ashes of dreams, and blood-stained streets. It's been written that those who hold the youth hold the future. So come now, children of the beast, be strong and shout at the devil. Shout, shout, shout at the devil. I prefer the original version. What was it, the 98 version? It was good. I just prefer the original. And so, usurp in Hebrew is Yachab. You might recognize it by its European phonetic corruption of Jacob. Jacob was the younger brother by a couple seconds, as he was holding on to his older brother Esau's ankle, Achilles' heel. Or where the snake bites man, and then man crushes the serpent's head. Yeah, all tied to Achilles. And so Esau means hairy, because he was hairy. Poor baby. If you haven't seen the original V that had a special TV miniseries event way back in the early 80s, you missed the part where the woman has twins, and one is a lizard-looking baby, and the other is a human-looking baby with a lizard tongue. Excuse me. And so what happens is that as they grow up, it's time for the kingdom to be transferred to Esau, as Isaac is old and frail and blind. It's not supposed to be the one that's blind. It's supposed to be Esau who's blind. But that's not the way they wrote the story. And so Rachel tells Jacob, go give him a salad. He's got to be starving. Go give him a salad. That's the way it was supposed to be written. Instead, they made it porridge. And so he goes out, gives him the salad, trades it for his birthright, which is his right to rule over the tribe. And then Rachel then tells Jacob, put on this animal skin, pretend to be Esau, and go in unto your father and demand the blessing, which is the property, the double portion for the birthright blessing son, which Joseph got for Ephraim and Manasseh. And Isaac did it. But then Esau confronted Isaac and said, "What did you do? You gave away my blessing." And Isaac said, "I didn't make a mistake. You can't fool this old, blind, dying man. I meant to do that." So the reason why I'm saying it should have been altered is because of the original Egyptian stories upon which they were based. So Samson, he's blinded at the temple of the Philistines, Bruce Armaconky. Unbelievable. The building. Oh, Bruce. How hast thou fallen from heaven, Bruce? You were the best Mormons had, and you failed. And he also was hairy. He didn't cut his hair. So again, a comparable story. Interestingly enough, as I've told you many times before, he's the Sun King. Shemesh, sun. The N is the determinative for man as king. If it were a place, it would be kingdom. Jerusalem being a tributary kingdom and not a capital kingdom. Egypt was controlling them. Even though Assyria had conquered northern Israel at that time when Babylon came in. So when Babylon came and first conquered Jerusalem and put Zedekiah on the throne, it became a tributary to Babylon instead of Egypt. But as you are well aware, they tried to cheat. Prophets tried to warn them, don't cheat. They're coming. You got to give tribute to Babylon or they will come and destroy us. And I cheated. And they were defeated and the temple destroyed. Just as Jesus was accused of being a terrorist and was arrested for being a terrorist, saying he was going to destroy the temple in 3 days. Never mind about that raising it up again. Or destroyed and then raised in 3 days. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He didn't come down from the cross, they didn't believe him. Oh, but the signs happened. Yeah, well, the Book of Mormon explains the signs and what they are for the future. And so tomorrow, in less than 12 hours actually, well, no, a little more than 12 hours, 14 hours, Babylon will witness the partial eclipse, solar eclipse, of the annular eclipse. And they're north of the line, they're north of the line, where Utah was south of the total solar eclipse on the 21st of August 2017. That eclipse also went directly over Independence, Missouri, and Adam-on-Diamond, Missouri. Ammon being the Sun King of the Egyptians. And Ammon is the name of the Mormon God. You know that, Mormons? You keep calling him Jesus. You don't believe that? Adam-on-Diamond? Do you not know what Bruce Armaconky translated it as? He is a translator after all, right? He has the keys of translation. First one is in section 78 of the Doctrine and Covenants. Wherefore do the things which I have commanded you, saith your Redeemer, even the Son, Amen, who prepareth all things before he taketh you. Second one is in section 95, verse 17. He's talking about the temple. And let the higher part of the inner court be dedicated unto me for the school of mine apostles, saith Son, Amen. Or in other words, Alphas, which he's using the masculine singular rather than the feminine Alpha, or in other words, Omegas, or Omega, even Jesus Christos, your Master. Amen. That's the name of our God, Mormons. So the priesthood. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Respect. Name. Section 107. Why the first is called the Melchizedek priesthood is because Melchizedek, which Melech, king, Zadok, righteous, which is a high priest, was such a great high priest. Before this day it was called the holy priesthood after the order of the Son of God. That's a title. God is a title, it's not a name. So what's the name of God? Son, Amen. But out of respect or reverence to the name of the Supreme Being, Amen, the Son God, to avoid too frequent repetition of his name, they, the Church in ancient days, called that priesthood after Melchizedek, or the Melchizedek priesthood. And I've gone over Amen. It's the shortened version of Melchizedek. The first letter is the sun symbol in Paleo-Hebrew, and M is the letter of a high priest, and N is the symbol of a king, as I did with Samson for you. And so a son priest of Amen, who's a king also, Melchizedek, a high priest and a king. So Amen, the name of God in Paleo-Hebrew, is the shortened version of Melchizedek, and that's why Melchizedek is a combination of two words, and is not one word, but the Jews have combined it together into one word. They only had two-letter words with an occasional determinative. And so it's not Semitic, which means it's older than Semitic. But yeah, and as I've been pointing out to you, so yeah, Shemesh for son is actually an unusual spelling, an unusual length of the word. But let us go to Doctrine and Covenants, section 103. Because remember, the Jews don't believe Jesus of the Gospels is coming a second time because he never came the first time. He didn't save the Jews as prophesied by Jeremiah. And so we go to verse 15. Behold, I say unto you, the redemption of Zion must needs come by power. Therefore I will raise up unto my people. Whose people is Joseph Smith talking about? Mormons. I will raise up a child into a man unto Mormons, who shall lead them like as Moses, which is the office of the president of the church. And so, well, it's obviously Nelson, right? You aren't circumscribing all truth may be circumscribed into one great whole. You're not doing that. 85 of the Doctrine and Covenants. Here's the Samson version. And it shall come to pass that I, in verse 7, the Lord God will send one mighty and strong. Samson. It's from his book. He was mighty and strong, holding the scepter of power for government, king. And then to set in order the house of God. Well, Nelson's going to set in order the house of God? Well, who before him messed it up? And are we sure he set it in order? If it was messed up before, and he's not saying it was messed up, are you sure that his changes in 2019 was setting it in order, or was it making it more apostate as it got disordered after the death and murder of Joseph Smith? And so there's your high priest, because only a high priest can enter into the Holy of Holies. Not a regular priest, not an elder, not a 70, not a deacon or teacher, not a Levite. Only the high priest. Thus, anybody else but the high priest who steadies the Ark of the Covenant shall fall by the shaft of death. And so why is the man who is called and appointed to steady the Ark being struck, shall fall by the shaft of death, as a tree that is smitten by the vivid shaft of lightning, which has caused Mormons to think that's them rather than the first president of the church at the time when this prophecy will be fulfilled. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. So this is who the Jews are waiting for, with a Mormon twist. Because Utah, as I've been telling you, is the phonetic equivalent of Judah, which again, the European phonetic corruption is actually Judah. Spell past. Do you spell it with a T or an ED? T and D are the phonetic equivalents. Utah and Judah are phonetic equivalents. That's the coding that is used. So when you go to section 45, the church service missionaries for the 1981 edition of the scriptures messed up. They didn't decode all of the coded words. And so it's not Jews, it's Mormons. Joseph Smith told us, a man raised up, born and raised in the Mormon church, is to rescue Mormons. But the Mormons are going to be shocked and horrified that they've been deceived this whole time, that they have sent death threats to their king and high priest, who is to restore the kingdom of David. That's the symbol of the restoration of the kingdom of David. And they will cry when they say, "These are the wounds that I was wounded in the house of my friends." And so today I got a death threat from John D. Lee. Not John Peely. That's a different person. John D. Lee. my other death threat was on Friday the 13th of March 2020. And then, like I showed you, I'd have to go back quite a ways, wouldn't I? Nope, there it is. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over the internet in the house of Travis until the 9th hour, according to the Jewish calendar. Which everybody makes the mistake. It's 9 in the morning when he died. Because of the sign tomorrow. Babylon shall fall. And that it's just the sign. So when Babylon and Iraq does not fall, I don't want to see posts saying, "Oh, you're a false prophet." Don't be dumbasses. The sign is never the event. The sign is the warning of the event. Dumbasses. You know, if it happens at that time, okay. But are you sure it's that Babylon? Because let me point something else out for you. It comes from Joseph Smith, section 1. And we can start it in verse 14. And the arm of the Lord shall be revealed, and the day cometh. This is after Joseph Smith. It's not an Old Testament prophecy here. The day cometh that they who will not hear the voice of the Lord, neither the voice of his servants, neither give heed to the words of the prophets and apostles. Oh, that's Brigham Young to Nelson and all of the apostles, right? No. This is Joseph Smith giving it. So he's talking about the scriptural Bible prophets, the Book of Mormon fictional prophets who are encoded prophets, shall be excommunicated from among the Mormons. How can I dare say it's Mormons? For they, those who got cut off, have strayed from mine ordinances and have broken mine everlasting covenant. Have the heathen nations joined the Mormon church and gotten the marriage covenant? No, only Mormons who go through the temple. That's who it's talking about. It is Mormons who shall be cut off for not heeding the Book of Mormon or the Bible. It is the Mormons who have strayed from the ordinances of the temple, who have broken the marriage covenant. And I'm not talking about going gay. I'm talking about the inverted pentagram above the door of the Salt Lake Temple, where we got our pictures taken on our wedding day. To set in order the house of God. They seek, Mormons seek not the Lord to establish his righteousness. But every Mormon walks in his own way, after the image of their own God, whose image is in the likeness of the world, and whose substance is that of an idol, which waxeth, grows old, and shall perish in Babylon. This was not decoded. It is not Iraq, where the sign will appear in Babylon tomorrow at 9 in the morning. Even Babylon the Great, which shall fall. Great and abominable church also is to fall. Wherefore, I, the Lord, knowing the calamity which should come upon the inhabitants of the earth, have called upon my servant Joseph Jr. Let's go back to section 103. Verily, verily, I say unto you, that my servant Joseph Smith Jr. is the man. But he was murdered, his kingdom usurped. I don't think he was hairy, he had a beard. And his name definitely wasn't Jacob. But this is the Jewish version of events. This is not the Christian version, Mormons. You are not looking for Jesus of the Gospels with the Mormon twist of a physical body separate from Heavenly Father's to come to earth to do all the work for you. To slaughter the wicked, go to Adam on Diamond, receive all the keys of the priesthood, which he already got on the Temple of Mount of Transfiguration, remember? So why does he need to get them again? You've got to go over 107, verse 22. And that never happened. But that's not the event, guys. You need to understand the prophecies. You know, because otherwise you're going to say, oh, his name has to be Moses, because that's his name in the Old Testament prophecy, and it has to be against Pharaoh, so, well, I guess there is no second coming because there's no Pharaoh anymore. That's not how prophecy works. You don't take it literally. They are coding, symbolisms. You need to find out which land so that you can identify which people by recognizing the time frame you're working with. And thus, John in Revelation chapter 12 gave us the precise time, the day, the hour to look for. Oh, but we weren't, Matthew said that we're not supposed to, what? That was added in by a redactor who wanted to keep everybody silent. This is astronomy you're working with. It is a precise time measurement. And there appeared a great sign in heaven, a woman. So what signs are in heaven? Constellations. What is the woman constellation? Virgo. Oh, virgin. A virgin shall give birth to a child. An immaculate conception, because it's not actual sex. Oh. It's all about the signs in the heavens. Thus there was no sex. But it's still the sign about the actual birth, which is not by Heavenly Father having sex with his daughter, mortal daughter, and then Hera getting mad at Zeus for having done so, giving birth to Hercules and Perseus, man whore. Zeus, if you haven't seen those videos I've done, is the phonetic or pictorial equivalent this time with Yah, which again, the European corrupted phoneme Jah in that one verse in Psalms. And so, yeah, it's the woman Virgo. That's where the signs are going to occur. She's clothed with the sun. What time of the year is the sun in the constellation of Virgo? The middle of September to the middle of October. And then as you add more to the sign, it becomes more precise. It's not every year now. Now you have the moon under her feet. So now you have a specific day on a yearly basis. And upon her head a crown of 12 stars, not 9 that are in the constellation of Leo. Yes, I know there are gazillion bazillion stars, but they only designated 9 for the constellation of Leo, which means there are 3 stars that are going to be added. Sort of like the death of the 3 apostles during the Tetrad lunar eclipse in 2015, resulting in 3 new apostles getting added to the quorum of the 12 of Utah, Judah, the Lion constellation that was murdered by Samson, the Sun King. And so Lehi, his first vision, dream, he sees 12 stars, 12 apostles. And so 3 planets are added. And wouldn't you know it, on the 21st of August 2017, when the sun goes dark for the first of the 3 days of darkness, tomorrow is the 2nd day of darkness, the 3rd day is on 8 April 2024. We have this total solar eclipse at the star Regulus in Leo. Regulus is king. And wouldn't you know it, the 2 stars of Mercury and Mars are also in conjunction. The government leader and the religious leader. That sign has never happened on Earth. Joseph Smith Sr., however, thought it was close enough so that he then said on that day they got the plates, or Joseph Jr. did on that day, from Moroni, which was actually written by him as Nephi. But Heber C. Kimball said he saw another sign in the heavens, not this one. Heber C. Kimball does a lot of lying. But it wasn't quite accurate, but it was close. Because it was 27th of September. Or 21st of September. Or was it 23rd? It was in September 1827. I always get that mixed up because it's 1827. But yeah, get your Stellarium program if you don't have one. Go to stellarium.org and you can see for yourself. You'll have your own Urim and Thummim, as Abraham did, to look at the skies. It's amazing. Then you can go back to Jerusalem at 4 AD, which is 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem. On the 8th of April. Remember, 8 April 2024, 2020 years later, but now in America, not Jerusalem. Check out this guy. You have to, I think it's around 12 or 1 o'clock. Might have to check again. You will see the sign of communism, of Muslims, of Catholics, of business corporations, of McDonald's. Mac tonight, as he's sitting in the moon, DreamWorks. That's where they all got the sign from. And so they all then said, oh, well, that obviously is the sign, so we're going to create a whole gospel narrative based on the Egyptian writings and say it happened then, 200, 300, 400, 500 years previous to when we were writing about it. So it's that simple, guys. Not complicated. I keep saying that, and I didn't want to go this long.